Turning now to the Target 12 investigators with the story of a Rhode Island native who was on hand for one of America's darkest hours.
Frank Emond was born and raised in Pawtucket. He joined the U.S. Navy shortly before World War II and was stationed at Pearl Harbor the morning of the surprise attack that brought the U.S. into the war. Emond died this week at the age of 104. 12 News Politics editor Ted Nesi first reported his passing on WPRI.com, and he joins us now with more. So Ted, I want to go behind the scenes a little bit here. How did this first get on your radar?
Yeah, well, Kim Kayla, it's interesting sometimes how we learn about news developments in the newsroom. Some viewers might recall a story I filed a few years ago about Charles Braga. You see him on screen there. He's the namesake of the Braga Bridge, and he was killed in the Pearl Harbor attack. Back when I was working on that story, I actually started following the Pearl Harbor National Memorial in Hawaii on Instagram, and just yesterday came across a post from them mentioning Frank Emond's passing. And of course, when I saw Rhode Island reference in the post, it jumped out to me right away, so I decided to learn more about him.
And it's quite a story. He was on the deck of the battleship the morning of the Pearl Harbor attack because of music lessons he learned in Pawtucket.
Yeah, talk about an example of the power of music education, right? Emond grew up, as you said, in Pawtucket, where he learned to play the French horn. So when he enlisted in the Navy, he joined the Navy band. And on the day of the Pearl Harbor attack that morning, he was getting ready to play the morning flag-raising ceremony with the rest of the band when suddenly the planes appeared and the attack began. A few years ago, he actually spoke with our sister station, WPRI, about what he saw that day.
So when that torpedo plane went by, the man in the rear cockpit was shooting at us with a machine gun. If I close my eyes, I can see that just as if it was there now.
And Emond was pressed into rescue operations, evacuating the wounded and the dead. Over 2,000 Navy men and sailors were killed. And it was a day he said he remembered vividly for the next 8 decades.
And as we mentioned, Ted, Emond died this week. He was 104 years old, which is amazing. And he'd been living in Florida since retiring from the Navy back in 1968. But his death also made headlines because of just how few Pearl Harbor survivors there still are.
Yeah, Kim, the federal government actually doesn't keep any records about the exact number of Pearl Harbor survivors who are still alive, but the youngest men who were in the Navy that day would now be in their late 90s. This video you're seeing is from last month's annual remembrance ceremony in Hawaii. Just 6 of the survivors were well enough to be able to attend. You see some of them there, but of course I would say their stories will live on.
Important history for all Americans. Target 12 politics editor Ted Nesi, thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.